So if you take Groundhog Day and Breaking Bad and mash them together, you might get something kind of like this. That and it's better than a cock punch. Blood Punch is brought to us by director Madeline Paxson and stars Milo Cartwright, Olivia Tennant, and Ari Boylan. This is actually a request from one of my Patreons over on Patreon, Greg C. So, Greg, this is all for you. Greg is one of my top tier bad motherfucking patrons. And one of the benefits to that top tier is that once a month you get to pick a movie that I have to review. And this month, Greg's choice was 2013's Blood Punch. Now, I gotta admit, I had never seen nor heard of this movie, so it was kind of exciting to go in with zero expectations. And looking into it, quite a few of the performers were a part of a season of Power Rangers, but the movie itself is very R-rated. So I really didn't know what the fuck I was getting myself into. Turns out what I ended up with was a pretty entertaining independent dark comedy that involves drug dealers, psychopaths, a whole lot of murder, and a day that continues to repeat itself. Ultimately, we got a meth cook that gets recruited by a boyfriend-girlfriend duo to go out into the woods and in one day create something like 100 pounds of pure meth. Now, I'm not gonna spoil why, but come to find, much like things like Groundhog Day or Edge of Tomorrow, as soon as you fall asleep or die, you wake up that same day at the beginning, just like you did the previous day. Well, the same day, or previous day, or, I mean, it's not the same day, but it's the next day, but it's still the same day. It's fucking Tuesday. They keep on reliving Tuesday. And the vast majority of the movie is these characters trying to figure out how to break the cycle and get on to the next day, aka Wednesday. What I liked about this movie was its tone. It was a bit jarring at times. When it first starts, you have these characters that typically wouldn't be the heroes in a movie. It's a meth cook and a meth user, and they're at a rehabilitation center where everybody's cracked out on something. Or was. I guess the idea of the place is that they're not anymore and they're trying to stay that way. One of these characters clearly not having any desire to get rehabilitated, and this is where some of the dark comedy comes from. And when I say dark comedy, I mean pretty damn dark comedy. Like I said, this is about drug dealers and generally deplorable people. There's lots of scenes of murder and generally shitty things that people are doing, and there is comedy within it. But this is not gonna be that kind of comedy for everybody. Me, myself, though, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty damn funny, but that's because, you know, I can take a joke. Something else I really liked about the movie that I really wasn't expecting was how they really deep dive into this phenomenon that's happening. They never over-explain it, but they do give us a lot more insight into this type of phenomenon than a lot of movies like this would. Especially the rules. They did really good there. A lot of these time travel or repeating the same day movies or whatever it is, a lot of the times there are holes within their logic. Doesn't mean the movie can't be entertaining, but sometimes there's just holes there if you think about it too much. Clearly, the writer or writers of this film took time to think about these things, ask these questions, and somehow answer them within the film. I don't really want to give too many examples because that would give some of the things away, and it really was a highlight of the film every time they would answer one of these questions that we typically don't get answered in this kind of movie. It was an attention to detail that I myself, as someone who watches a whole lot of movies, really did appreciate. Now, leading up to watching this film, I actually did watch the trailer, or at least part of it. And I gotta say that this trailer is not a very good representation of this movie. In fact, the trailer makes the movie look really cheap and badly performed. And this isn't like an expensive movie by any means. This is definitely a low-budget indie. But when it comes to the performances in particular, the trailer just, I don't know what it is about it. The way it's cut made it look like it was gonna have very stilted, awkward performances, and that's just not what we got. These are generally some pretty entertaining, good performances we get, especially from our leads. The vast majority of this movie is only 3 characters, and all 3 of them do a really good job. The chemistry that they all have is really believable, and that might be because they have all worked together in the past on this TV show back in the day. And I think that they all chose this project because it is such a stark contrast to Power Rangers. And if they were looking for an image change, I don't know how much more of one they could get going from Power Rangers to drug-dealing, meth addict murderers. So mission accomplished there, guys. All of our characters and the performances we get are very likable in that despicable kind of way. You never quite know who to trust throughout this thing, and the movie throws out a whole lot of curveballs your way. We do get a handful of characters that show up later on in the story for a brief amount of time that aren't quite as good as our main 3, but they do serve their purpose. Our main 3 that we spend the majority of the runtime with, though, are all really entertaining and fun to watch. Now, as I mentioned, this is an independent low-budget film, but even though it is, they never allowed those limitations to hold them back. Sure, you You can tell that there were some places that they wanted to show more. But as I've said many times before, instead of doing that and overextending themselves and having shoddy effects or something else of that nature, they didn't. They kept it within their wheelhouse. There's a few scenes here or there that, yeah, I would have liked to have seen a bit more, especially when it came with some of the more creative kills. There are some kills that are more suggested and not so much shown. And while that is a bit disappointing on the surface, if you really think about it, if you had gotten shoddy looking effects for these kills, it would have just broken the whole thing. So I do appreciate the fact of them at least suggesting to some of these more creative kills. Now that's not to say that we don't get any effects, we do, and the ones we get are all solid. It's just that some of the more grandiose things that they hint at, we don't see. They happen either off screen or framed in a way to where they don't have to show some of the more expensive effects. Now beyond that, the only place that you can really see some of the budgetary issues is in the sound design. I'm not gonna lie, this movie's got some weird sound. It doesn't do it in because the movie overall is still really entertaining, but there's some sound effects that they threw in here that just aren't up to snuff. It's not like the music or anything, that's all fine. It's more sound effects, like some gunshots and some other things that are going on in the background that are clearly like really low quality. It doesn't totally break the experience or anything, but it is there and you do notice it. When it happens, it's kind of, oh wow, that's kind of jarring. But considering how well the rest of the movie is made and constructed, you're willing to look over some little things like that. The movie also has what I considered a satisfying conclusion. Now, I don't know if this movie's gonna work for everybody, but given the overall tone and feel of this movie, I can't really imagine any other way of it going down. It is different, but it's satisfying and it stays in line with that dark comedy feel. Guys, I enjoyed Blood Punch a lot more than I thought I would after viewing that trailer. It had some solid, really great characters and performances that all had great chemistry. The visual effects are a little light, but given what they had to work with, I think they did a really good job here. And there are a few auditory oddities, but given how original and entertaining this movie is, you're willing to look past those because overall it's got a great execution. It's an indie and it's an indie done right. And what it also is absolutely worth a rent.
All he wanted was this.
I have to return some videotape.
I was pretty surprised by this movie and I do recommend you guys check it out, and I'm really grateful that Greg told me to check this movie out because I had a really good time with it. It's available to stream on quite a few services, but even if you can't find it in those places, as of the recording of this video, it's available for free on YouTube. I don't know how that works, but it is apparently there and it's free as of right now. So if you're looking for a timey-wimey dark comedy for the night, then check out Blood Punch and I think you'll have a really good time with it. So there it is, guys, my review of Blood Punch. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below and become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits that go along with that, like these guys. You can also join my top tier bad motherfuckers like my man Greg and request your own movie once a month for me to review just like this one. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Cleveland.
Maybe the real way out is just to never leave.
I think you're right. I really don't get why this movie hasn't gained more popularity over the years. I mean, I'd never even heard of it going into this, not that I'm like the be-all end-all of movies, but I do kind of have my ear to the ground on things. I haven't necessarily seen every movie out there, but I've heard of a fair amount of them. This one just was not on the radar at all, and I don't get it because this has all the things you need to be kind of a cult classic. I mean, yeah, the heroes are meth-dealing murderers, but so are the characters in Breaking Bad, and it seemed to work out for them fuckers.